President Bola Tinubu last night met with the new Ondo State Governor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, at his Lagos residence and encouraged him to take charge of things and mobilize the people to move the state forward. This was as Aiyedatiwa vowed that the name of his late predecessor, Oluwarotimi Akeredolus, would never be forgotten because his legacies and impacts could be seen and felt across the state and the country. Aiyedatiwa led a delegation of top government functionaries, state and national assembly lawmakers, including members of his cabinet, on a private condolence visit to the Ibadan, Oyo State residence of his former boss, late Governor Rotimi Akeredolus. The meeting was held away from the prying eyes of journalists at the Jericho residence of the Akeredolus. Speaking shortly after the meeting, Governor Aiyedatiwa described the demise of his former boss as a personal and national loss, stating emphatically that the late senior lawyer was an accomplished Nigerian who contributed in no small measure to national development.
Under my leadership, Government of Ondo State, on behalf of the good people of Ondo State, to pay a condolence visit to the immediate and extended family of our former governor, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolus, SCNCO, and who passed on in his private home here in Ibadan. Yes, we have to do this because he has always been our leader, a courageous one for that matter, one who has governed Ondo State in the last 6.5 to 7 years with great courage and with so many legacies that he has left behind. He's an exemplary leader, a courageous one, a leader that believes in fairness, equity, and justice, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who speaks on national issues so that adjustment and proper decision can be made concerning any issue in Nigeria. So he's known for that as an activist. Today he's no more. We have to pay him that respect by coming to the family to condole with them, to commiserate with them. And we have done that. We pray that God will grant the families the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss, and for those of us that he has left behind, to be able to emulate some of the values, the sterling qualities that he's known for, so that we can keep on with the legacies that he has left behind.
Well, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa there, one of his first official and private, in this sense, assignments, going to visit the family of the late former governor of Ondo State, Governor Rotimi Akeredolus. Rufai, your take on this?
I mean, that's only apt, going to visit the family. Not only Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa went to visit the family, other people too have been going to the Jericho home of Akeredolus to condole with him. In fact, I saw pictures. The former governor of Ondo State, Ibikunle Amosun, was there. I think Governor Abdulrazak of Kwara too has also been there, and many other people have been there to condole with the family. But I mean, that's the transience of life. He has gone there, and he has paid his respect to Akeredolus, and he said his name will never be forgotten. So it remains for Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa to see how he can go ahead and immortalize Akeredolus and make his memory grand, and definitely more funeral arrangements will be discussed between the family and the state government on that. Concerning meeting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we definitely, he has to meet President Bola Ahmed Tinubu because they have to talk a lot of politics and consolidate for the next elections. And don't deceive yourself. The next election cycle has started. By April, we'll have to see who wins the party primaries. Aiyedatiwa is in the pole position for that, but there are other contenders, like Idowu Ajanaku did say yesterday. And the politicking will start full swing. Those other contenders too will also be meeting with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They want to have his ears on this. So it's politics season. He says he should consolidate and take charge. And yes, he will consolidate, he will take charge. But one other part of it is he should bring all warring factions together, because we still see the resignation going on, by hitherto loyalists of Akeredolus. But it's a time for politics. It's time for harnessing all the resources. Aiyedatiwa should bring everybody together in the fold. But what should be paramount and be essential for the Ondo people should be development. The big question will be, can Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa make that giant stride as regards development in the rest couple of months? Because I know once next year starts, even now, after all of this 3-day mourning, condolences, and probably the burial of Akeredolus, it's going to be politics full swing. How can a politician do that vis-a-vis development? We all know that the last year of any administration was always as a lame duck. It's not supposed to be, but that has become the political culture and the convention in Nigeria. So his priority should be cease hostilities, warring factions. There are some people he has to deal with, yeah. There are some people that are irredeemable, yes. He has to deal with that. But those that can be redeemed, redeem them, then focus on development. Take, for instance, budget in Ondo State has to be passed. A lot has to be done, as regards helping the state grow and accelerate tremendously. I'm sure probably there are some projects pending to be done. If he can start on all of that, then still talk about his politics, because he needs a better footing to now show the stuff he's made of if he wins re-election at the tail end of the year. That's it for him. But it looks as though things are aligning from him. He's going to meet President Tinubu, leader of the APC, president of the country, leader of the party by default. And let's see how all of this pans out. But it just shows you the transience of life. At some point, that was Akeredolus' home. But Akeredolus is no longer there today. I think that speaks volumes about life.
Well, it's normal tradition, culture for, people to pay condolence visits. And in this particular case, it would have been surprising if Governor Aiyedatiwa did not lead a delegation of major stakeholders in Ondo State, including the remaining members of his cabinet, to go and condole with Mrs. Betty Akeredolus and other members of the family on the passing of a man who was his principal, who was governor, and who was leader of the Southwest Governors Forum. And that's the reason I also guess why all the governors in the Southwest and other governors, have been, are prompt in going to pay condolence visits. And as we heard from him during that visit, he reiterated some of the statements he made when he was given his maiden speech as governor, namely about the legacies of late Governor Akeredolus, about how he was a sincere, courageous man, and how he was also a doting father, husband, grandfather, a man who was able to combine the elements both within the public space and within the private space. The 3-day mourning that has been declared is from December 28th to December 30th. That means it will end on Saturday. The family is here to announce, the final, the program for the burial and the final obsequies, but that will come in due course. And the Ondo State government, of course, will play a major role in this regard. And another thing that came out yesterday was the governor of Oyo State also declaring a 3-day mourning period for Governor Akeredolus. You will recall that Governor Seyi Makinde is the vice chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum. So, he was next to the late Governor Akeredolus in the Southwest Governors Caucus. And so he too has taken that step. So 2 major events yesterday for Governor Aiyedatiwa. He went to condole with the Akeredolus family in Ibadan, in the Jericho residence. And then after that, yesterday evening, he met with President Tinubu. And he said he went to meet President Tinubu for 3 major reasons. One, to brief him about latest developments in Ondo State. And I was making the point yesterday that it is standard practice for governors to brief the president, about developments in their state. Sometimes maybe via phone call, but sometimes depending on the circumstances, by seeking direct audience with the president. And the president, of course, will not deny audience to any governor who wants to meet with him. Secondly, he said he also wanted to present himself to the president. Having been sworn in as the new governor, he thought it was also appropriate to meet with the president to formally introduce himself, even though he was aware that the president had phoned to express his condolences, had issued a statement, but he went to see the president. And third, to thank the president for his interventions in the 6-month-long crisis in Ondo State, and to thank him for playing the role of a father figure to stabilize the situation in Ondo State. Clearly, you know, Akeredolus started functioning effectively as governor with full executive powers in Ondo State. The latest development is that more persons appointed by Governor Akeredolus have further resigned. And as we pointed out yesterday, these persons turning in their resignation letters are saying they are acting out of loyalty to the former governor. So the very first task that Governor Akeredolus will have to do will be to put his own team together, and very quickly too, so that he can have a full complement of persons, while he may be busy trying to also tie the loose ends with regard to what may be his ambition to remain as governor in Ondo State. He will still need people who will have to focus on the job. As I pointed out again yesterday, he also needs to go about this in a sense that shows an attempt to promote unity. Because there's a lot of bitterness in Ondo State, there's a lot of division. He has to unify the people, and he must not allow his own politics to further divide the people. He has, in the course of the last few days, made a lot of promises about the completion of projects by the late governor, about continuing with the legacy projects of the late governor, about moving the state forward along the path of progressive politics and development. Now, we want to assume that those promises were not made in vain. And, Governor Akeredolus should be well reminded that he will be held to account on the basis of promises that he has made. Although he doesn't seem to have plenty of time, but, between now and November 2024, when there will be fresh elections, another round of gubernatorial elections in Ondo State, there's a lot that he can do. But he can start by stabilizing the state and making sure that the bitterness, the politics of bitterness that enveloped the state for more than 6 months is something that he addresses, working together with all those stakeholders that he had invited to come and work with him.
Absolutely. Well, the governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, enjoyed a cordial relationship with Governor Rotimi Akeredolus, especially in the early days of the second term of Governor Akeredolus. That was evidenced by the video we played yesterday during Trending, where the governor himself had recommended and paid high tributes to his deputy at the time, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, saying that he was loyal and that in the event that he wanted to run for a second term, he could potentially support him, and commended his family members, congratulating them for his wife, his children, for seeing the day where he was being sworn in as deputy to him being governor. So it wasn't a surprise to see that one of the first acts that the government took on assumption of office as substantive governor of Ondo State was to visit his former boss's family. His wife, whom we saw, and pictures have shown that, and his children at their Jericho home in Ibadan. And he he didn't go alone, he led a very distinguished delegation of members of his cabinet and members of the State House of Assembly and National Assembly to pay their condolences, also signing the register as well, having been in attendance. I think this is very important, especially in towing the footpath of unifying people, bringing people together, is showing obvious support for former Governor Akeredolus' family and showing empathy. I do believe that, of course, having died in office, Governor Akeredolu would be given a state burial. It would be sponsored by the state, especially in honor of his service to the state in the last 7 years, and the governor would be leading this. I know that there was an incident like that happened in one of the southwestern states for a former governor, and the battle between how he was buried, the support of the governor and the likes. I hope this will be avoided in Ondo State, and that Governor Akeredolu will be given a befitting burial that would be sponsored and led by the governor of Ondo State. Moving on to his visit to the leader of the APC and, of course, the president, like Dr. Bati had mentioned, he had said that one of the reasons he had gone to see the president, amongst other things, of course, in terms of briefing, was to thank him for the support he had given the people of Ondo State, and he in particular, as well as former Governor Akeredolu, when the issues, ensued in the last few months. And so he was there to thank him for being a leader and also to assure him that he was going to lead the people well. One of the things I would say, in addition to all the recommendations with regards to what he can begin to do, despite the limited time that he has, because next year is an election year, is that I would love for him to look into the case of unpaid salaries and entitlements, especially for pensioners and civil servants in the state. In the last few hours, there have been stories around people who had been, and of course you would understand why, because in the last few months, the former governor had, whilst trying to be leader in Ondo State, battled with ill health. And so a few things fell under whilst this was happening. And some of these payments had not been made. No announcement was made as to what the compensation for workers in the state would be during the Christmas season, especially during this hard time. So I'd love for him to focus on the people of Ondo State, especially the civil servants in the state, and ensure that at least to some extent arrears are being paid and they're able to get some form of bonus during this time. I know it's mourning period. However, others who have had to endure a difficult festive season, especially with food inflation at over 30%, must also be looked after. These are some of the things I hope you'll address. So beyond the politicking, preparing for 2024, I believe the biggest, if you were going to campaign strategy would be to pay attention to the people whom he hopes to serve if he does throw in his heart decisively into the ring, decides to serve in Ondo State. Well, barely a few days after the Christmas festivities, bandits have killed 8 people in Fikiu, Mkpabo, and Bambo Puri communities within Usa local government area of Taraba State. The member representing Usa State constituency in the Taraba State House of Assembly, Rikupki Ureyang, who confirmed the attack, raised concern over the unabated killing of the members of his constituency. He's calling on the federal government to deploy troops to the troubled area before the bandits wipe out the affected farming community.
It's disheartening to see that despite the overwhelming revelation in the manner and ways the bandits carry out their activities in Usa State constituency, no conscious effort from the security agents is made to ensure their men and officers are immediately drafted to the trouble area. I consciously emphasize in the press conference I made recently that the bandits have their inroad from Sufa through Achanyim to Kwambo Puri via Kwambo Yashi area. I thought the security agents would have leveraged on these tips in deploying their men and officers to the restive area so to prevent further attacks by these blood-sucking demons. Gentlemen of the press, it is disappointing to know that nothing was done after the press conference. And regrettably, the attackers came back again through their usual routes yesterday around 4 p.m. and had their field day on the innocent people of Osa constituency. Sadly, 8 persons lost their precious lives and 3 others are now in the critical situation. That there should be a constant security patrol team that should be patrolling Kwambo, Fikiu, Kwambo Yashe, and Kwambo Puri along that axis. 2, there should be a security outfit or security post in Kwambo Yashe with immediate effect to avoid any other attack on the harmless citizen of my constituency.
To Plateau State, where the number of deaths in the Christmas Eve massacre of villagers in several communities has reached 200. Families in one of the villages in Boko's local government have buried their relatives in mass graves. Armed groups launched attacks on Saturday evening in the state, a region plagued for several years by religious and ethnic tensions. Properties worth millions of naira were also destroyed. It's the bloodiest conflict in the region since 2018.
To understand each other, and we have achieved peace on the plateau. We have started receiving commendations. But the devil's work that happened on the eve of Christmas cannot be explained because it is unprovoked. Nobody here has touched anybody. Nobody here has carried anybody's cow yet. And it so happened that up till 4 a.m., there were 36 different calls. As you are running to this place, they will tell you, oh, we are seeing people here again. You will run there. Before you get there, they will say, we were overwhelmed. And it could have been worse, much, much worse.
There are many people that were killed, slaughtered like animals. They are cold-blooded. Some are in their house, some were even outside. Today, we buried about 150 all over in the zone, and they came to attack them, and they killed them. They burned churches, houses were burned, and the people are helpless.
Meanwhile, Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang has visited survivors of the attacks. Governor Mutfwang, who toured the Jos University Teaching Hospital, expressed sympathy to the victims and assured them of the government's support. He emphasized the administration's determination to stop the violence. He pledged that the state government would bear the costs of medical bills. Some survivors spoke about their near-death experience, saying the actions of the attackers were meant to unleash mayhem on them ahead of Christmas.
We must treat with this as criminality. I would follow up with the security agencies until they are able to give us tangible evidence of the perpetrators of these criminalities. And not only are we able to fish them out, but that will also make sure they are prosecuted. That is the only way that justice can come to the dead, justice can come to the wounded.
The attackers came into our village, and when they came, they were carrying guns and other sophisticated weapons. They came into our house, and immediately they entered. They hit the door, pushed it open, and when they entered, they saw me, and they called my name. And the next thing that they did was that they used their knife and machete and other dangerous weapons to machete me, hit me. They kept calling my name, I refused to answer. Now, later, what they did was that they took out their knife and they kept hitting me. They cut my leg, they cut my hand. They called my name, I refused to answer. They pushed me up and down, I refused to answer. When they now saw that I've stopped breathing, they decided to let me go. They were speaking in a language that, I know. I identified 2 of the attackers. They are people we know in my village.
The United Nations Rights Chief, Volker Turk, has lent his voice in condemnation of last weekend's massacre of nearly 200 people by armed bandits in Plateau State, while calling for an urgent investigation into the killings. Turk, in a statement, said he was deeply alarmed by the series of attacks by gunmen on multiple rural communities in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. He's called on Nigerian authorities to promptly investigate the incident thoroughly and independently in line with international human rights laws and to hold those responsible to account in fair trials. All right, Rufai, more updates, and as if whilst we're still dealing with one, Taraba State also in the news this morning for attacks and deaths.
I am miffed this morning. It is day 2, and I'd like to ask, where is President Tinubu? Why is he not there with the people? You can see, with all the security deployed to the north, banditry still happened. It killed people in Taraba. It's moved away from Plateau now, it's going to Taraba. Why are people being attacked? Why are people in communities being attacked? Why are they killed? The Constitution that President Tinubu swore to defend says in section 14, subsection 2b, that the welfare and the protection of the citizen is the sole responsibility of the government. The welfare and the protection of the citizen and the right to life of the citizen has been violated. We encourage the president to do something. Only yesterday, the deputy president of the Middle Belt Forum, FBN, said that these attackers have still written letters to different communities that they are coming again. Just like they wrote a letter the first time. Hope they will not be so bold to attack again, and hope the military will stem them back. And I think I feel very sad, even more, that a general is blaming the devil for an attack. Please, the devil is innocent. Leave the devil out of it. You heard what that man on the sickbed said. He said they called his name. So if the general is wise, he should know by intelligence that there were people that knew people in those communities that did that job. He should go and investigate and use intelligence. Stop calling the devil. Did the devil come from hellfire to come and attack people in Jos? So if people call that people's name, that means they knew the people in those communities. So why have they not gone to extract information for people like this guy? And I even pray for this man's safety. Yeah. That we had to put through this. And he said that they called his name on TV. I just hope he's safe. If the general wants to act, he should stop blaming the devil and go and meet people like that and say, who are the people? They know them. They saw them. But now we blame the devil. Leave the devil out of it. The devil is sitting down in his own jejeje. We are blaming the devil. Economy is going bad. We are blaming the devil. Everything we blame the devil. When we don't take action. Never ascribe to malice what you can explain with incompetence. And that's what everybody's saying. Even the Sultan said it. The Sultan was an ex-military man. He said it. There's a great deal of incompetence. Is it the devil that caused this attack in Taraba also? And President Tinubu, you are commander-in-chief. All of these service chiefs are at your beck and call. If they are not giving you what you want as regards the security of those areas, you know what to do about them. Like Dr. Abati says, they all serve at your pleasure. Enough of all of this. We can't keep living in a country where there's blood on our hands. That people are so bold to write a letter that they are coming to attack and nothing was done, they fulfilled it. And you are saying once you were hearing that they are attacking in one community, they said they were attacking another community, and you were saying the devil. It's not the devil. It's what they did were just called coordinated attacks. There's a name for it in military strategy, like General. This is what you've done all your life. When you have a coordinated attack, you know in your military textbook how to respond to it. If the capacity is not enough, say it so everybody can hear. And I know you guys are battling your own challenges. Please don't get me wrong. And I empathize with you in the military. But you saying the devil to people that knew that the attacks could have been avoided? Look at how that pastor was looking at it or that man there was looking at it when he was saying the devil. The devil for what? We should never ascribe to malice what you can explain with incompetence. And everybody that blood is on their hands should take responsibility. We can't keep coming here to talk about bloodshed. And it's so easy for us to talk because it's not affecting us.
Right?
Well, the attacks in Taraba, in Zamfara, in Plateau, as we have said, those attacks have been perennial. We've been on this page since about 2009. Successive administrations have failed. Different service chiefs have been appointed. They have failed. Okay? There have been all kinds of operations that have been declared. Operation Safe Haven, Operation Agendari, and all kinds of operations, military terms. What we get are just slogans. And what we deal with is the ineffectuality of the Nigerian state. I repeat the point that we need to perhaps think out of the box. All this, they are kinetic, non-kinetic approach. We must have been hearing that, first they were talking about rejigging security architecture. When we complain that which architecture is this? If you start building a house, there must be a point where we will at least begin to see the structure. When we didn't see the structure, the security service chiefs began to talk of kinetic and non-kinetic, which became a cliche. Well, but Nigerian people are interested in results. They are interested in safety, security. They want to be able to go to their farms without being slaughtered. They want to be able to go about their normal businesses without being molested. They want to feel secure that whatever may be their religion or their ethnicity, nobody will violate their rights under Section 42 of the 1999 Constitution. However, perennially, the Nigerian state has continued to disappoint the people. That is the issue. The second issue here is that in the case of Taraba, it's not as if, what is being reported, 8 persons being killed in Kusha local government area. It's not new. Consistently in Taraba, we've been having these attacks. In Takum local government, in July, about 18 people were killed. In October, again in this same Takum, there was the killing of 18 villagers right in front of the 83 battalion in one of the villages there. Right in front of army barracks. They killed 18 people and nothing happened. The military establishment there could not do anything. In the same October, a monarch was killed, his wife was abducted, his son was abducted. What did anybody do about it? Okay, so it continues like that in Taraba, in Zamfara. The whole of that region, North Central, Middle Belt and all that, has become a killing field. And the big embarrassment is that the Nigerian state has not been able to do anything about this. Now, the general that was speaking, his name is Abubakar, right? Yes. Abubakar. He's the current commander of Operation Safe Haven. And what we consider scandalous is that the military continue to give excuses. One gentleman was speaking on Arise News yesterday. He repeated the point that the attack in Plateau, they had 37 distress calls sent to the military, to Operation Safe Haven, which General Abubakar leads particularly. So what the last excuse we had was that the terrain was difficult. If Operation Safe Haven under General Abubakar cannot do the job, it should be redeployed. Let them send him to training department to go and or research department. If he doesn't have what it takes to lead the troops, and if he has any problems, let him communicate what his problems are. He was saying that they were overwhelmed. Why is it that Nigerian security agencies are always overwhelmed? And then he was facing the people who lost their loved ones, up to about 200 we were told. And he was saying it could have been worse. I mean, what kind of training do these guys receive? Whether they call themselves Major General or they call themselves Marshal or whatever. You stand in front of people who have lost up to about 200 people. You say it could have been worse. This was how the Taraba State Police Command once said, oh, it was not 8 persons that died. It was 3 persons that died. So we have no regard for human lives here. And so the impunity is not just on the part of the bandits, insurgents, and terrorists. there is also gross impunity on the part of people who are paid by the Nigerian state to do their work. They continue to give excuses. Now, what is worse is that a gentleman that appeared on television yesterday has now said that in Pushit community in the Mangu local government area, they've received a notice in the same Plateau State that in the next few days, they are going to attack Pushit community. I hope the security agencies, they are aware of this because the man made the point on open television. And what, the security agents confirm by making, asinine comments is that they confirm what Bitrus Bogu, the president of the Middle Belt Forum, said, that there's complicity. That was his allegation between the security forces and the bandits. One Honorable Naganye, who is a member of the Plateau State, representing a Plateau State constituency in the House of Representatives, also spoke on Arise and said exactly the same thing. That the security agencies, they know who these people here are, they know when they attack, they know where they go to after killing people. And yet the reign of impunity continues. I think Nigerians are tired of these excuses. We know it's asymmetrical warfare, but can the service chiefs and their agents on the field, whatever operation, whatever label they give to the operation, that they begin to do their work. If they have any problems, let them come forward. We have had enough of kinetic, non-kinetic, that does not produce any result. And we measure this in terms of body bags, in terms of unmarked graveyards, where innocent Nigerians get killed, and the only thing that happens to them is because they are Nigerians. The Vice President has promised that there will be access to justice. The Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Gaidam, he too has spoken up yesterday. He says, no, the perpetrators will be hunted down. Well, we hear that all the time. We hope that it will not be an empty phrase. And that is why the United Nations spokesperson is calling for a probe. Everybody is calling for a probe. We hope that this will not go the way of previous incidents of this nature, whereby, everybody says it will be investigated, there will be justice, the attackers will be brought down until the next event occurs. And we sit down here, we're wasting very valuable saliva on the same thing all the time without seeing any difference.
When incidents like this occur, the reason why you have your occurrences at a grand scale, or in certain instances, a lot worse than the previous, is because nothing was done when it happened previously. The unfortunate incident of 8 being killed in Taraba State is actually a part of a larger and a bigger problem that the people of Taraba State, especially in Usa local government area of the state, have faced in the last 1 year. In fact, speaking in the middle, July of this year, the president of the Kute people worldwide had said that then, by July, 100 people from that area and at least 65 communities dislodged as a result of attacks in that community. In fact, they wondered what the special interest in that community was. I'm saying this because this was reported in July. In November, we had attacks as well in that same area. And now we have more attacks. When we hear 8, it might seem like compared to 200. But to know that consistently this year, 2023, this area has been attacked, and yet what we hear from the security agencies seem like platitudes. Investigations upon investigations. We will address upon we will address. The Inspector General of Police assuring and visiting, the commander, everybody addressing and just saying we'll investigate. And then this then brings to part that then what is the role of intelligence in all of this? If bandits, and according to that gentleman on the hospital bed said, had sophisticated weapons, seemed to be coordinated, and were able to have a reign of terror for an extended period of time, then it definitely aligns with the fact that something is not quite right. And there are people within the system who are aiding and abetting these attacks. Because why is it that they look away when this happens, and then usually troops or security operators are then deployed after the fact. And then when they are deployed, they stay for a period of time, they leave, and then another attack occurs in the same place. It is a shame and a disgrace to our security architecture, security apparatus in the country. And the president has had 7 months so far. He knew, at least I'm sure he was aware, of the killings in these areas before he took oath of office on the 29th of May. So it didn't come as a surprise. Therefore, we would assume that he had ample time during electioneering to make plans as to how he hopes to tackle insecurity in these areas. Unfortunately, 7 months down the line, we're seeing attacks. The Zamfara students, 11 out of 24 of them who were kidnapped by bandits, spent Christmas in the chokehold of bandits. These are people who we need to advocate for what is going on in the north central part of Nigeria, in the northern part of Nigeria. We are at war, and we have to admit that, and the president and the security agencies must deal decisively with it. 200 people killed in Plateau State. 8 more people killed in Taraba, alongside the hundreds of people who have already died in Usa local government area. Who is speaking up for them? Now, the consequence of this is that these areas are farming communities. Does it then bear any wonder why we have food inflation at over 30%, when farmers are afraid to go to their farms to farm, why the cost of produce is at its highest in recent times, when farmers don't feel protected enough to go to their farming, and then we talk about we're going to invest in agriculture. If you must invest in agriculture, you have to first invest in security, because no matter how much money is pumped into that sector, if people who ought to be in farms cannot go to farms because they're afraid or displaced from their communities, then will continue to face issues in agriculture despite the amount of money being put into it. And then we talk about investors, attracting investors to the agricultural sector. How will they come when their investment is not secure because of the level of insecurity in these areas? And that's why it's an SOS call to the president to take charge, save the people of Plateau State, save the people of Taraba State, save the people of Zamfara State. They do not deserve to die like animals in a state or in a country that is their own. I think it is disgraceful, it is shameful, and it has to be a matter of national emergency.